This is the Real Change Wilmington podcast, episode 7, inside New Life Clinic with our guest today, Courtney Hoak.
We fully believe in that woman's choice. I mean, we have to respect them, just like God respects us and our free will. They have just as much free will. It's just we want them to understand everything that can happen, everything that may happen, and to say, hey, have you thought of all your options? Do you know that as a pregnant woman, you have three? You have three options. Would you like to discuss them? And then we will. We'll talk to them about it. And in the end, it's still their decision. But we're just hoping that they're better prepared or better informed when they make that.
What's going on, everybody? This is your host of the Real Change Wilmington podcast, Dustin Pierce, with my co-host, as always,
Emily Spencer.
She is growing so much. Real change before our very own eyes. So we have a great podcast for you guys today with Courtney Hoak over at New Life Clinic. We got to tour the place before the podcast, so we got to see their entrance baby boutique, or is that what it's called?
A boutique is what I think she was calling it.
Boutique?
I don't know. There was bows there.
Okay. And you earn baby bucks. And I guess there's a clinic aspect as well when women would come in and talk with someone and maybe get a pregnancy test.
And ultrasounds and
STI training, or not training, STI.
STI training.
Here's
how you get gonorrhea.
There was a chair with a strap in it. I don't know.
They have a pee room. I mean.
You mean a bathroom?
No, they had like their lab. She was like, this is the pee room.
They have a room full of pee that
right.
Emily really wanted to see, but I said no. That's what happened.
Likely story.
I was not the one who wanted to see the pee room.
This is it. This is what we put on the podcast. Courtney cancels us.
So yeah, it was a good podcast. I'd never been in the New Life Clinic before, so it was good to get to see the building. It was very, very nice.
Yeah, it looks like they've done a lot of remodeling.
Mm-hmm.
They just remodeled a room for their dad's club, and it is super nice.
Yeah, Dad's with a Z. Dad's Club. It's very cool. Emily was trying to come up with a response. But
no, I'm just thinking about dads with a Z. The Cool Dads Club.
So what were some highlights from this episode for you, Emily?
When we talked about that they're like considered a pro-life clinic, but it's not about, we talk about it not being really pro-life or pro-choice. It's a pro-education. Mm-hmm. And it's education in all your options. And I think that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, something that stood out, I just think whenever I hear someone's like personal story of overcoming something, I always get teary-eyed. So I was trying to hold back my tears.
Man tears. Trademark.
Men don't cry, Dustin. Men don't cry. Stuff it down. Anyways, so yeah, I'm glad Courtney came on and got to share with us about the service they offer, tell us some great stories. And also talk about some of the laws, changes in the laws too recently. So yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and bring in Courtney. All right, so Courtney, welcome to the Real Change Wilmington podcast. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're actually in Wilmington Church of Christ today in their studio, so hopefully the sound quality is a bit better for people today. And you used to work here, is that right?
Yeah, I was actually the secretary for about 6 months before I took the job that I have now.
Okay. Yeah, the pastor here, Dale, was telling me about that and how he, I guess, found out the position was open for a while, but didn't tell you because he knew you'd be perfect for it. And then he found out behind his back and then
Well,
switched.
See, he must have left out that first part
okay.
because he's never told me that.
Oh, okay.
Now you're going to get Dale in trouble.
That was some Burger King talk earlier this week.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that he, the phrase once used was, "You're dead to me." But then I'm kidding.
Dustin, what you say at the king's house has to stay at the king's house.
Yeah. All right. So why don't you just tell people who you are? Where are you from? What's your story?
Well, I'm born and raised in Clinton County. I'm from New Vienna. My parents owned Streber's Market, so a lot of people remember me as the little Streber girl. That's what I was referred to as for many years. And then I went to college in Cincinnati for a few years, got a job out there, lived in the city for 4 years after college, but then...
What was your degree in?
It was in public relations.
Okay.
So after I got that job in Cincinnati. I worked down there for 4 years, met my now husband, moved back to Clinton County, and we got married. And now we have a farm kind of close to Lee's Creek, and we have 4 children, ages 10, 8, and twins are 6. So we stay busy. We have sports year round, a full farm, and yeah.
What do you farm?
He does corn and soybeans.
Okay. Is he a full-time farmer then? Or?
Full-time farmer, and he's also a loan officer for Farm Credit Services. So he kind of has 2 full-time jobs.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. And then, so what was your career like before the New Life Clinic?
Well, I worked for like a networking computer company for a few years doing their vendor relations, and we did a lot of subcontracting. So I worked a lot with the subcontractors, getting them on board, like making sure that they were in line and licensed to do the work that we needed them to do around the country. Went into doing some managed services work for them for a while. And then I did a little bit of banking when I moved back to Clinton County, because, it was 2009 and the recession was hitting and there weren't many jobs open. So I did banking for a little bit, and then became a stay-at-home mom because we had 4 kids in 4 years. And so I stayed home for a while.
Yikes.
And then was introduced to volunteering at the clinic, actually, and volunteered a day a week for a few years. And then the position came open here at the church.
So you started volunteering at the clinic in 2015?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay. Doing like mom classes or something?
Yeah, I taught some women who were first-time moms. Yeah, we taught a class. It was called Pathway to Parenting. And it was just for first-time moms, kind of teaching them the ins and outs of pregnancy, and then on top of like newborn care and nutrition needs and things of that nature.
How old were your kids at that time?
Well, at that time, I hadn't had the twins yet. So I think Jeffrey was 2 and Connor would have been about a year old.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So you have 2 years of experience, teach the class.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then you said you were working, so you were doing that as a volunteer thing?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I went from just teaching classes to becoming a client advocate. And so that type of a volunteer position is where you do the counseling and the pregnancy testing and help the moms kind of navigate all the services that New Life Clinic has to offer.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did that for, 4 years, 3 years, 3 or 4 years before now coming on as the director.
And then you went back into the working world?
I did. It was just kind of funny because Dale actually had come to the clinic one day to do devotions or have a meeting with us for something. And he said,
pregnancy test or something?
No.
Just heartburn. Yeah.
Just heartburn.
Yeah, but he just happened to look at me and he said, "Hey, do you possibly need a part-time job?" And I thought, weird, because I had just talked to my husband about it. My twins were starting kindergarten. And I thought, what a perfect time to start going back to work. And I thought, yes, I am interested. And so then that came to where I came to the church.
And that was back in 2021 or 22?
I was in 21.
21?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you started with the clinic in January of 22?
Correct, yes.
Okay, awesome. So how did you find out about the position?
Mostly because the position came available and the clinic was kind of left without a leader for a few months. And so when I would leave here at the church, I'd go back and try to help when I could. They had their big fall fundraiser coming up. So I wanted to make sure that I could help out and make sure it still went off without a hitch and there were no issues with that. So I was still going back, and from kind of stepping up and managing that, I had quite a few people who said, "Hey, have you thought about being the next director?" And I thought, no, I just took that job at the church. I was like, Dale would be so mad at me. But through some talking, and they just kept saying, well, just pray about it. And I thought, no. But I did. I started praying about it. And I said, God, you know where you want me. So I'm going to need a little bit clear sign of what I need to do. And when you ask, he will give. And I mean, he gave me a lot of reasons. So I said, okay. I threw my hat in the ring, and in December they called and said I had it. So.
Okay. That's pretty cool.
Congratulations on just over a year.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. How has that been, like, transitioning from your role as a volunteer to like being the director now?
Well, it definitely helps from being a volunteer because you get to see it from every angle. I think that definitely helps, but definitely a lot different, a lot more hats to wear, a lot more things to worry about. And yeah, definitely different, but in a good way. It's definitely been a good experience. What
are some additional responsibilities that you had to take on as the director?
Just daily managing activities. So like anything that works its way up the chain, if it's a problem, if there's a conflict, or, you got to resolve it. You got to decide what's the best practice. Are we actually following our policies and procedures, making changes, making tweaks. make sure our insurance is up to date, that we're using the best insurance policies that we have out there, being out in the community, doing the fundraising, planning the fundraisers, making sure that the community is aware and things of that nature. Just trying to be out and talk to people really that was my goal for last year, but it's going to be more for this year.
How is it to be a person in charge of fundraising? Did you just take the previous playbook and do those fundraisers, or have you made your own fundraising events?
Just kind of going back what we've done in the past. I always got to at least help in some way doing the fundraisers before. So I already knew kind of what we did and the general scope of it. There's been a few changes, but mostly minor, like paperwork or things that we used to do that maybe we don't necessarily do anymore. We're trying to do more online or more of an email instead of paper formats and things of that nature.
What do the fundraisers look like?
We have 3 main fundraisers a year. In January, around the Sanctity of Human Life Sunday, which is actually this coming Sunday, January 22nd,
Okay.
We start our baby bottle fundraiser, which a lot of churches then will use our baby bottles and just say, hey, to the congregation, this is Sanctity of Human Life Sunday. This is why we talk about it. And if you want to support the local pregnancy center, take a bottle, fill it with change, a check, dollar bills, and just as a donation, and then the churches collect them back and then bring them in. So it's really our easiest fundraiser. In the spring, we then have our Walk for Life, which we actually hold here at Wilmington Church of Christ.
Okay.
And it's just a 5K walk around town. And then last year we added in some food trucks afterwards that the people who were walking got to enjoy afterwards. And then in the fall, we have our big annual fundraising. It used to be called our banquet, but we're now going to call it our fall fundraiser, because we used to do a full-on meal, but we have found out it's actually a little more successful if we just do a dessert style instead of a full meal. But we typically have a paid speaker who comes in and gives some sort of a testimony. Or the last 2 years, we've really been able to use a speaker that we actually have a client story that ties right into our speaker, whether they used their program or something in their ministry spoke to that particular client. And it's just been a wonderful connection to have at our fundraisers.
Are those local speakers then, or just people that your clients have heard of, and then you got the speaker to come in or something?
Well, 2 years ago, we had Sean Carney, who's the president and CEO of 40 Days for Life. So he's based out of Texas, but they are the groups and organizations that tend to pray outside of abortion clinics. And because of one of the 40 Days for Life campaigns, we actually had a client who was scared to go to her abortion appointment and actually came to us instead. And after talking with her, found out that really she didn't want an abortion, and she ended up choosing life for her son. But she used her own testimony to show how our speaker for that night and what he started in his group actually helped save her child, and they didn't even know it. And it was really a cool little power testimony when he got on stage and he's like, yeah, this is one that, because he's like, we count the babies that we save. And he goes, and this one I didn't even know about. So he was excited about that. And then this year we had Amy Ford, who's president and CEO of Embrace Grace, which is a group that church members hold at a church, but we help support them. So we at the pregnancy center refer our clients to an Embrace Grace group. And then if it's a group that we're tied to or that uses us as their kind of financial backing for the group that they do, we supply them with a gift at the end. And the Embrace Grace group, it's fantastic if you ever get to learn about it, but it's helping women as a single mom to learn that, even though you're pregnant, you shouldn't be shunned by the church. The church is actually wanting to come around you and love on you and support you. And this is how we're going to do this. And we want you to come to this church and let us love on you and support you and help you be a single mom. And so we're able to refer girls to that, and then they get a gift. And then Amy Ford was our speaker this year. And we had a client who had just went through the group and actually ended up naming her baby Grace after the group.
How many Grace groups are in Clinton County or Wilmington?
We have 2 churches that do it right now. Wilmington Church of Christ is one, and then also Faith Family Church has a group as well. And Faith Family this year is adding an Embrace Legacy, which is for dads.
So single dads?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
That's very cool. So the people that go to those groups, like the women or the men that go to those groups, do they have a church background or affiliation, or?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a prerequisite to have to go.
Okay. So what does the leadership look like at New Life Clinic? What's the team look like?
Yeah, well, we have a board of directors that obviously does the business side of the clinic. So they're made up of men and women who just kind of decide how the business side and, making sure that we're using donor money wisely.
Okay.
They're a wonderful group that they definitely know what they're doing. And I'm very fortunate to have them. They've been a huge support of mine. And then they technically are the one who are in charge of me. So they also make sure I'm doing my job. And then below me, I have Sheila, who's our financial administrative director. She takes care of all the finances and the budgets and paying the bills and deals with the donors and all of that. Then we have our client services coordinator, Karen, who she's in charge of all of our volunteers, all of our education. Basically, anything client related goes to Karen. She kind of decides what's the best route and what our clients might or might not be interested in. Then we also have a nurse practitioner who is our nurse manager. She does all of our STI testing and making sure that our medical policies and procedures are up to date. And she works directly with our medical director, Dr. Gabbard, who also makes sure that medically we're doing everything that we should be. We have
Are those two on staff?
Our nurse practitioner is Dr. Gabbard is volunteer as our medical director.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we have our registered nurse who does all of our first trimester ultrasounds. And then we have a receptionist who is at our front desk and answers the phones and helps all of our clients with their baby bucks and whatever they need to shop with or any questions they have. And then we also have our sexual health educator who goes into the local school systems and teaches an abstinence education program.
Okay. So let's get into your services.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone comes into your facility, guy or girl, what's their experience like?
Well, what we do is anything pregnancy and parenting related, especially from the point of conception up to typically around when the child's 2 to 3 years old. Mostly 2. 2 is kind of when they age out of the process. But yeah, we can offer such an array of services. So anything from pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, maternity clothes, options counseling. We have a baby boutique where they can purchase any item really with our baby bucks, which is like our own monopoly money that they can earn through so many different ways, whether that be taking classes, online classes, in-person classes, book reports, going to the doctor gets them baby bucks. But any of their baby needs, we can help them earn it. And even if they have issues, like we work with them, whatever we can do to help them. That's why our online classes were a wonderful addition when COVID hit, because when COVID hit, we had to cancel all of our in-person classes, but they were still able to earn, they were still able to learn by being able to text or email a class that they needed.
Nice.
Yeah. And then obviously we do the STI testing and some treatment if it's for an STI that they have that we're able to treat, because there are some that aren't treatable. But we also have multiple educational classes, whether it be about pregnancy or parenting related, even budgeting. We have a class on budgeting. And then we also offer classes for dads. We have a dads program. So we have a few men coming up that are getting trained to take on more dads. We're definitely seeing more dads that want to step up and learn how to be a better father and a better role model. And we want to help them do that.
What's the age of the fathers and the women who come to your...
Oh, they're all over the place.
Really?
We have teenagers up through 40-year-olds. And yeah, we don't discriminate against age, any of that.
The average person that comes in.
They're all over the place.
Okay.
Yeah. We take anybody. It doesn't matter your income, doesn't matter your background. Some people think, oh, you have to go to church to go there. No, you don't. Or you have to make a certain income to go there. No, you don't. Like literally, if you are pregnant, we will see you. Or if you're a parent, we will see you.
Do you offer classes for like foster parents and potential people looking to adopt?
We do not, but 4C does. So if we don't offer it, typically we work with an organization who does. The last time I talked to 4C, they were even potentially going to use our facility as a potential meeting place for those parents and people interested. I don't know if that's still in the works or not, but...
What's 4C?
4C is another nonprofit organization. It's for children.
Okay.
But yeah, they really do a lot with like foster parents and kids in the foster care system.
And is that a local group or
It's mostly, I think, based out of the Cincinnati, Warren County area, but they also cover Clinton County. So Clinton County is like in their work area, even though they're not based here.
Okay.
Do you offer anything for higher risk pregnancies?
Well, since we don't really do prenatal care, we don't really have anything for necessarily high risk patients, but say for instance somebody is high risk, they're on bed rest. We don't want them to miss out on learning how to be a better mom or learning how to, prepare a nutritional meal for a toddler who's hard to eat, or any of the classes that we have. So we'll still offer them like the online classes and try to work out ways for them to still get their baby bucks or anything out of our boutique that they need. So like we're very conscious with if they have a special need and trying to work with them.
That's so nice.
Can you talk about maybe some stories of women who've come in and what's going on in their head, and then how do you help them, I guess?
Oh, absolutely. So typically, if we have a woman come in who's happy to be pregnant, that kind of is an area where we would just take them into the counseling room and just say, hey, these are all the services that we offer. Would any of this be of interest to you? Like the classes or the boutique and earning the items and such. And we offer that to them. And then the pregnancy tests and the ultrasounds as well. But if there's a woman who's necessarily not so happy to be pregnant, we just kind of say, hey, what's going on? What's going on in your mind? Because from people that work at our clinic who have been in their shoes, they totally understand, and they will explain it as it's like a tornado that is just circling around them, and all they see are these problems just whipping around them. Like, I'm going to ruin my life. I'm going to ruin his life. I'm going to ruin my parents' life. I'm not going to finish school, or I'm not going to get that job promotion that I wanted. They just see problems most of the time. So what we'll say is, okay, well, what are you worried about? And they'll kind of lay them out on the table, and a lot of times these women just want those feelings validated. They just want to know that I can come here and I can just release everything that's on my heart and on my mind. And our hope is just to take that storm and give them a path to take. So say, okay, you think that you're going to be ruining everybody's lives, but honestly, what in reality would your boyfriend say when you find out that you're pregnant? What do you really think your parents will say? Would they be supportive? Like initially, yeah, they might be mad, but do you think they would be supportive of you? So, so your fear is telling you one thing, but in reality, what would your reality be? And in hopes to calm those fears. Our biggest thing we like to tell our clients is fear sometimes can be a liar. And if you're just going to focus on what the fear is telling you, you're going to panic and make a rash decision. And what we just want you to do is take some time, take a deep breath, really talk out that fear, think about what your reality could be, and then decide from there what is the best option for you. And our whole thing is we just want them to leave us knowing that they're loved, that we're there for them, we're in their corner, and if there's anything we can help them with, that we'll be there for them.
So can you share maybe a story of each different scenario? So like someone who chose pregnancy, someone who chose fostering, maybe then someone who chose the abortion route?
Yeah. So with parenting, we've had girls who come in who weren't happy and ended up choosing parenting. And we actually just got an email in December from a client that we didn't know what she chose, because sometimes when they leave us, we don't see them again. Sometimes they'll come back, and sometimes they come every week. Like we have certain clients that'll come in every single week. But this one we hadn't seen since her initial ultrasound, and we didn't know what she chose. And we got an email with pictures saying that she wanted us to know that she chose life for her son, and she shared pictures and said, thank you so much for everything you did, said he's the best thing that ever happened to me, and I wouldn't have been able to do this without you guys. It was heartwarming, it was heartfelt, and we were so happy to see that, because when she originally left us, we didn't know, we weren't sure if we'd see her again, and it took over a year to find out, but just hearing that just kind of warmed our hearts that we get to see the pictures and her saying that it was the best decision she ever made, and he was the best decision of her life.
So she was one who was against pregnancy or afraid of it when it happened?
Early on, yes.
Yeah.
She had all the fear in her face and thought she was going to hurt everybody in her life. And then come to find out that, her parents are excited to be grandparents now. I'm assuming that was what happened, because there were pictures with grandparents in there. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. We also had a girl that chose adoption. With her, she originally came in wanting an abortion. So we offered her the free ultrasound like we offer everybody. Come to find out, she was much further along into her pregnancy than she originally thought. And at that point, we explained what an abortion at that point would entail. And she just said, I can't do that. And we said, okay, well, have you considered adoption? And she hadn't at that point. So we have a woman who will come in and talk about adoption with the girls. She's what we call our adoption advocate. She's adopted 2 kids herself. And so she knows the process, and she's able to explain, what's a private adoption, what's a public adoption, or, what's an open one, what's a closed one. And a lot of these girls have a misconception that adoption is through foster care. Well, no, not necessarily. You can go through adoption agencies. You get to pick the family that will raise your child. You get to meet with them however much you want. You can keep in constant communication with them, or you can have no communication, or somewhere in the middle. Like, the whole plan is up to you as the birth mother. You make the plan. And to her, that was very comforting that she had all of the control as to how that would go. And come to find out, after she was considering adoption, she actually knew somebody and was able to set up a private adoption. So our advocate was kind of able to say, okay, well, if you're going to go that route, make sure that they're home study ready. If they don't know what that means, this is what they need to do. And this is the process. And also got to hold her hand kind of through the process. So if a day got hard, she could call her and just kind of cry it out. And our advocate even followed up with her afterwards, went to visit her in the hospital after she had the baby. She even followed up with her after, are you doing okay? Do you need a support group? Do you need somebody else to talk to? Because they do have like birth mom support groups. And so she's, I can connect you with one if you need something, and just to make sure she's okay. And still to this day, she's like, I know I made the best choice for my child because they're in a loving home now that I wouldn't have been able to give them.
Yeah. Something I want to bring up that Emily is passionate about is there's not, I guess, a baby box or something in Clinton County.
I know.
So you guys are like
a safe
right
haven
next to the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I guess that's what it typically are.
Yes.
Have you guys thought about that, or?
To be honest, it has been something, oddly enough, in the last probably 2 weeks that has kind of kept coming to my mind, or I keep seeing it on social media or in emails and such. So I've been thinking about it myself. I don't know how to go about implementing it, but...
So the closest baby box to Clinton County, for anybody who is listening and needs one, is Amelia. I've wondered often if the reason Clinton County doesn't have one is because most of our fire departments are volunteer. They're not like a fully staffed all the time. And like in Amelia, their fire department is. And that's how it works, because that box keeps the baby warm and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the idea is the baby gets put in and almost immediately gets taken out and put into social services. So on a volunteer basis, it's a little harder.
I'm sure, yes.
Does that baby become like property of the state or something? So social services, can you privatize it so it becomes a property of like an organization or like a person, like not the state, or no?
No, I'm pretty sure that when it comes to the baby box, the anonymity behind it isn't, they don't go looking for the mother. They say, okay, well, this woman, for her own reasons, could not take care of this baby and wanted to remain anonymous. So they turn it over and the baby becomes a ward of the state, and then either gets put into an adoption program or into the foster care system.
Essentially, it's the way for the mom to give up all of their rights without having to go through the legal system themselves.
I just know, like you kind of alluded to, for foster care, you can either go through the foster process or an agency. Is the agency like still a state-regulated agency, or is it like more of a privatized thing? Or?
There are private adoption agencies, yes.
And those are easier to work through?
In my opinion, for a girl that needs, just because going through an agency, they have a plethora of moms and dads that are already ready to adopt within weeks, like a week or two. Like they're already home study ready. They've got books available that tell you every detail about the mom and dad's life. So that way, you know about their house, about their pets, their jobs, where they like to vacation. I mean, you learn everything about the moms and dads to help you decide, okay, do I want to meet them? Would I want them to raise my child? And then on top of that, and they don't always advertise this, but we always tell the girls, sometimes through these adoption agencies, they will give you money to help sustain you through the pregnancy, because they want to make sure you're eating healthy, that you have a safe roof over your head, and that you're protected during your pregnancy. So you get sometimes money just to live during that time as well, going through an agency that you wouldn't through a private adoption, or somebody that you would know that you would just do through lawyers. The only other problem is parents going through an agency are going to spend a lot more money to adopt than what a private adoption would cost.
Okay, interesting. I was just thinking my sister has is pregnant right now with her second little boy. And for some weird reason, she called me one day and said that she would be willing to be like, what's it called when you like have someone's baby, but it's not yours?
A surrogate.
A surrogate, like if I got married or something. And I'm like, okay, that's the weirdest thing ever. I guess she was like on social media or something and saw how much money surrogates can make. And I'm like, whatever, just do you. But anyways, that's a random thing. So the last choice, I guess, would be abortion.
Yeah, I can tell you, actually, we had a client recently who came in that was pregnant and had told us that earlier, I think it was last year, the year before, had actually chose abortion. Her boyfriend had kind of pressured her into it. He wasn't ready to have a kid. And she came to us pregnant again and just said, I can't do it again. Like, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. I'm still suffering. I won't do it again. And she just knew that we would come around her and support her. And she was at the point where even if the boyfriend left me, that I don't care because I'm not doing that again. Unfortunately, she ended up miscarrying that pregnancy, which of course is hard in and of itself, because most women who have an abortion in their past, if they go on to get pregnant again and have a miscarriage, they feel like they're being punished. And that is really hard for women to process sometimes, which is, and another service we offer are post-abortion recovery services. We do have post-abortion support groups and one-on-one counseling that we do. And that's what a lot of the women who go through those support groups, they will say that the ones that had a miscarriage later felt like they were being punished.
Like punished by God or something.
Yes. They really feel that way. And it's really hard to explain to them that, God doesn't work that way. There's so much to miscarriage in and of itself. And that's a new service I'm wanting to bring to New Life Clinic is miscarriage counseling. We have a group that we can go get training from out of Cincinnati, actually, that I learned about recently. And they have a fantastic program. And right now, if we have clients that are going through a miscarriage, I can refer them there for the counseling and for the help that they receive. But I really want somebody dedicated at New Life Clinic to be that person for Clinton County, because I think that would be such a tremendous resource for women going through a miscarriage to not only have somebody who's going to explain the process to them, but that can hopefully be there for them as much, if they want to be there with them at the hospital or at their house or, on the phone as they need them, and then to offer support past that, whether that be counseling, online, group support. That's a huge thing I would love to start here in Clinton County, is just finding the right person to do it. It's been tough.
So what are some, I don't know if you already touched on this or not, but misconceptions that women have coming in? You might have already touched on that. Or just
a little bit.
Or just the misconceptions the community has about what you do in general. And obviously abortion is a big topic. So
it's such a hot button topic right now because it's so politicized here lately. And I know that the whole kind of past conception about pregnancy resource centers are that, don't go there, they're going to beat you with the Bible. And, about 20, 25 years ago, that is kind of what they used to do, because they felt that when a woman came in a crisis pregnancy, if they didn't, read the entire gospel to them before they walked out the door, that they were a failure. And a lot of that has changed so much, because throughout the years, they've realized when a woman comes in a crisis pregnancy, she's not ready to hear anything about Jesus or being saved or going to church. Like, that's not even on her radar. And if you mention it, she's going to think you're crazy, or she's just going to walk out the door and forget it 2 seconds later. So all we want to do now is we just want to come around you and love on you. We want to show you that, we're going to be here to support you and be here for you. Be a place that you can hopefully feel safe and have a friend. And some clients have used us as mother figures if they need that, or as a sister, as a friend, to the point that they'll even stop in at our clinic on the way to the hospital to have their child, just to let us know that, we're in labor. But before they would even go around town and just say, oh, don't go there. They're just going to read scripture to you. They're just going to hit you with a Bible. And even though we are faith-based, we don't do that. Our whole goal is just to form a relationship with you. And then if they want to take that next step to learn about Christ or to learn about being saved or any of that, we'll totally help you with that as well. Get you plugged in with a local church if that's the route you want to go. If you don't, we stop it at that.
You guys, so to that point, you guys changed your logo a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Is this your old logo? Did it have or is it something else?
Our old logo.
Okay, so it's basically the same logo, but it has a family holding a child and there's a cross next to it. And this is an article from the paper that just says you're trying to be more accommodating. So you took that piece out of the logo to.
Well, I guess there was
more.
a census done around town as to, because there's a lot of people that don't know who we are and what we do. So when they show them the logo, do you know what they do? And is it a church? Is it not? So a lot of people thought we were a church. They wouldn't come to us. So we felt that maybe by removing that portion of our logo, that it would help them kind of learn more of who we are and what we did. And also they felt like, okay, well, if I'm not a Christian, I can't go there. Well, that's not it at all. But also to let you know that anybody's welcome. We don't want people to feel like we are a church to where, if you're not comfortable going to a church, you're not going to be comfortable coming to us. And we don't want people to feel that way.
Yeah. So you do have like scripture. So Emily and I got to tour your building before the podcast. I didn't mention that. You do have some scriptures on the walls. What's people's responses to that? They're all positive things.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We do not have any downstairs. So anything that is like pregnancy related or counseling related, gotcha. We don't have it on those walls, but we do in our classrooms and in our offices. We do. And most of those are, pregnancy related. Like, I Jeremiah 1:5, Psalm 139, I knew you before I knit you together in your mother's womb, and things of that nature, just to help maybe kind of encourage somebody in their pregnancy, just to know that, God has a plan for your child. If you truly believe in God, then you believe he created you at conception, and he knows when you're to begin and he knows when you are to die. And that is our whole belief at our clinic, is what we believe. And we just want everybody to know that, we feel like God has a plan for your baby. We feel like God has a plan for you. And if you want us to help you in that, we would love to be there for you.
What's been some of the, I guess, maybe the negative feedback that you've seen over the years? Or I think this is like a random thing, but do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So one of the things I noticed when I first came to Wilmington, and like all the stuff with abortion, obviously is a huge hot button issue. I saw there was a whole thing about protesters being outside of your clinic because they thought you were the next Planned Parenthood, that you were performing abortions.
Well, I do get that sometimes. Actually, a friend of mine, when I first started the job, my husband went and he said, Courtney's working over at the New Life Clinic now. And she goes, oh, why would she ever want to work there? And he was like, well, why wouldn't she? They help people. And she goes, oh, but they do abortions there. And he's like, whoa, you apparently don't know what they do. But, there's some good and bad to that. Like, obviously, we don't want people to think that we offer abortions. I mean, we're very clear about that on our website and all of our social media and stuff, that we don't. But sometimes girls will call us and they'll say, hey, do you perform abortions? I want to make an appointment. And then we can start the conversation with them. Like, why do you feel like this is your only way out? How can we help you? Like, is it finances? Because we can help you with that. Is it you don't have support? Because, we can help you with that too. The only thing we want more than anything for a girl who is considering abortion is to know that she is going to make that decision herself and that she's not being forced. Most of the women that we see are being coerced by a parent, a friend, a boyfriend, a husband even. And we know that if they're going to make the decision based on somebody else, it's going to be so hard on them going forward. They're going to hold that anger and resentment, and we feel like that's the wrong reasons. And it's so hard. We just want them to know that legally somebody can't force you. And we just really want to know that they have all the information before they make that decision, because it's a decision that's going to affect them the rest of their life. Whether they choose to parent, they're going to have a kid the rest of their life. If they have an abortion, they're going to have certain things that they're going to deal with the rest of their life with that, and even adoption. And so we just want to make sure that we walk them down each of their options. We talk about the pros and cons of all of them if the girl wants to talk about it, and in hopes that at the end of our meeting that they know which path that they're leaning towards, or that they're at least informed of all the options and the pros and cons. So when they make that decision, hopefully their long-term psychological processes will be so much easier, because a lot of the women that come to our post-abortion recovery, like for instance, one of the girls on our staff, she found out she was pregnant, told her parents the same day, and the next day was at an OBGYN, and the next day had an abortion. Was 3 days she got to sit on her pregnancy. I don't even know if it was a full 3 days. And then now she's regretted it her whole life. And she's like, I didn't have one person tell me I could do it. I didn't have one person say, hey, there's time. Just actually sit, process this out and think about it. And she's like, nobody did that for me. And now she's, she'll tell you eating disorders and all the things that have come with it, the shame, the guilt. And now she just wants to be able to have that conversation with the girl saying, hey, this is your possibility. This is what you'll have to live with. And I just want to make sure that when you make this decision that you're going to be able to live with it. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Sorry, got off topic a little bit.
I think,
yeah. I mean, I think education's great. We were talking about this interview yesterday before everything, and I said I feel like that's the number one problem with like sex education and pregnancy education is that if you can, a lot of places, especially in like communities like this, there's smaller communities, it's if you consider abortion, you're condemned, you're bad, you're a bad person. And some people are considering it because they're being coerced or because they don't feel like they have a way out. And I think it's really great that you sit down and you say, well, I mean, if that's what you feel, that's okay. But here's what you're going to understand about what's happening. Mm-hmm. Because in some aspect of it, regardless if you get an abortion or if you miscarry or have a stillbirth, losing a child in any regard is hard. And it's it messes with your brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of what's in the media is that pregnancy centers like us, like, we don't care about the mom. We only care about if they choose life and keep the baby. And it's like, no, the whole reason we do this is because we care about the mom so much. We know that when she chooses abortion, more than likely she's going to suffer in some way. The women that we've seen, they've turned to drugs, they've turned to alcohol, they've turned to suicide, they always say like one group of moms will become like helicopter moms, others will not ever be able to bond with their children that they have later. And there's just so much that can happen. And if you look it up, it's called post-abortion stress. And it's a real thing. And I know people like Planned Parenthood are trying to say, no, that's not a real thing. And no, it really is. Like, I see it in every single post-abortion class we do, because it's really hard. These women severely struggle, but because abortion is a secret, they don't feel able to be open and to talk about it and to go get the help that they need. So they'll turn to the drugs, the alcohol, and then they'll go get help for alcoholism. They'll get help for addiction, but they'll never deal with that root cause of the abortion. And because of that, other coping mechanisms will pop up that are not healthy. Mm. So through our post-abortion recovery, we also want to help with that. We want to make sure that your coping mechanisms are healthy.
You mentioned that most people who come, I think you said seeking abortions, they're being coerced into it. Mm-hmm. So it's not from like financial reasons or...
I mean, we get them sometimes, or, sometimes if you get a college student who's like, I'm never going to finish college, we'll get those every once in a while, but I'd say a good portion of them, they're being coerced or, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of influenced by somebody else in their life that, oh, you've got plenty of time to have kids. Now's not the right time for you. Or we had one time who the boyfriend was telling her, I don't want to raise a child in this society. I think the world is bad. And why would I want to bring a kid into this? That's a really cool story, because in the end, she, they'd been together for almost 10 years. And here he was telling her, if you have this baby, I'm leaving you. And of course, we're sitting here like, after 10 years, if he can do this to you, I mean, what kind of relationship do you have after that, And she eventually said, I don't think I can have an abortion. I want to have my baby. And we said, well, we're here to support you, whatever you need. Like, if you want to be a single mom, we'll help you get into an Embrace Grace group. If you need help with buying things for the baby, we'll help you with that. And after he sat on it for a while, realizing that she's having his child, whether he wanted it or not, he finally came around and thought, well, if I'm going to have a child in this world, I'm going to be the dad. Mm-hmm. And he stepped up to the plate and ended up kind of embracing the pregnancy. And by the end of it, I remember they came in to let us meet their baby. And he talked about how being a dad was the best feeling in the world. And he was already ready for another one. Yeah. And she was like, whoa, like, we just had this one, let's wait. But it was such a cool story to see play out, because, somebody who was very adamant that his girl needed to have an abortion because she was going to ruin his life. Yeah. And then turned around and saying that this was the best experience that he ever has had, and wants more now.
Yeah. Not that I'm siding with the guy, but like, I can imagine, just as girls have their own feelings that they got to deal with. The guys got to deal with their own feelings too, and processing all of the shock of pregnancy and stuff too. So that's cool that that story happened, I guess.
Yeah, and with all dads, if we have any dad that comes in, we tell them, hey, we have a dad's program. You don't have to be a bad dad to take it. Like, this is just to kind of teach you kind of how to be a leader.
Z, right?
Yeah,
so they're kind of bad dads.
I'll tell them you said that. They'll love it.
So offering parenting classes, do you get like a misconception often that the people who attend your parenting classes, they're court ordered to do so, or it's like, it's because they're, quote, bad parents?
Oh, no. I mean, we do get some that are court ordered for parenting classes, but, it's not like we put your court ordered sticker on your head so everybody knows. It can be anybody. Yeah. No, it can be for anybody. And a lot of times if we really are really good with following up with our clients. So we'll call them, we'll check in on them, even after they have the baby, how are you doing? And if they'll say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, or this has been on my mind, it's really cool how it kind of comes in cycles. And we'll say, hey, we'll put together a class about that. And would you like to come? And we'll just kind of form a class around it. And so a lot of our clients will come and do that. And that's been really helpful. And sometimes court order people will show up, sometimes they won't. But we always try to have a parenting class at least once a month. And they can be all different kinds. But if somebody's needing something specific, we'll create a one-on-one class for you if needed. I know last year we did one for a mom and dad who were trying to co-parent, and it wasn't going well. It was a lot of fighting, there was no give and take, and it was a lot of fighting. And we have a curriculum, and so we had an instructor and sat down with both of them, and they went through the whole gamut of what it's like to co-parent and how the best practices and meeting with them specifically. They got to hear each of their challenges and try to come up with plans. Like, okay, well, if this isn't working, let's try this. If this is working, let's continue with this. And it's just really neat forming these relationships with our clients and finding the ways that we can help. So when people ask us exactly what we do, like, it's so hard. Like, we have our set services, but on top of that, if we see somewhere else that we can jump in and help, we take it. We're like, let us just come alongside you and help you.
Is there any other misconceptions that you kind of want to address, or?
Goodness. The big one is that, we're going to talk you out of an abortion, and that's not it. Like, a lot of people are like, well, pro-lifers they only care about the baby. They don't care about the mom, like I told you. So I've explained to you, we care about the mom. But on top of that, we fully believe in that woman's choice. I mean, we have to respect them, just like God respects us and our free will. They have just as much free will. It's just we want them to understand everything that can happen, everything that may happen, and to say, hey, have you thought of all your options? Do you know that as a pregnant woman, you have three? You have three options. Would you like to discuss them? And then we'll talk to them about it. And in the end, it's still their decision, but we're just hoping that they're better prepared or better informed when they make that. And so we kind of joke at our clinic a lot that if you're pro-choice, you should actually support us, because we've had a lot of clients who, when they go to an abortion clinic, those abortion workers are pressuring them to choose abortion because they're going to get paid by it. Whereas if you come to us, all of our services are free. We don't charge anything. So whose interest do you think we have at heart? Yours. We're worried about you, and we want to make sure you're informed and that you're making the best choice for you. Whereas somebody who's pro-choice that supports Planned Parenthood, no, when they're going to go there, they're going to try to get you to do an abortion. We hear stories of they'll do abortions on women who aren't pregnant just to get their money. And then women will suffer the rest of their lives and they weren't even pregnant. And just, we hear all the horror stories all the time. And it's hard. It's hard to think that we're looked out as the bad people, that we're looked at as the enemy, when all we're really trying to do is just help a woman to make the best decision that she can.
I think no matter what you do in life, like, you're going to have people who misinterpret and hate you, whether you're a teacher or like doing a podcast to help the community and people misinterpret it.
It sounds like you're not necessarily pro-choice or pro-life. You're pro-education, letting people know their options. And that's great, like I said.
Like my favorite, I don't want to say this is my favorite story, but one story that always comes to mind is I have this one client who I dealt with her, oh goodness, it's been years now. And she keeps choosing abortion, but she keeps coming back to the clinic, like for her pregnancy tests and an ultrasound to see if she's going to miscarry, but she keeps choosing abortion. And of course, I just think this girl's going to suffer one day. Because in her mind, she's not doing anything wrong. She's making the best choice for her. Whereas all along, in her aspect, it's I don't know how to word it. It's really hard to explain. But to her, she already has a child, and she feels like she's taking away the love to that child, so she doesn't want to have any more, and so she just keeps choosing abortion. But I'm like. Like, do you know what multiple abortions can do to you? Have you looked up what's going to happen to your health after multiple abortions? And every time I see her, I feed into her, like, we love you, but she keeps claiming that she doesn't feel love and she can't understand love, and it's really hard for her. And I told her, I said, someday you will. And I said, and when you do, we'll still be here ready for you. Like I know someday it's going to happen. And I wait for the day that she's going to walk through our door and say, I get it now. But yeah, that one's a hard one. So we have our hard cases that we carry with us in our hearts, but it doesn't keep us from praying for them.
Yeah.
We still love on her, knowing what she's probably going to do. But
So Emily and I were talking about just, pro-life versus pro-choice and the different state laws and Roe versus Wade and all that stuff that's going on these days. I know, I've heard of a story, I think it was a lady in Tennessee who had a miscarriage, but was having an abortion or something like that. Just like a crazy, weird, like, you hear these like stories, people are like, oh, I think this way about pro-life and pro-choice because I have this relative or this friend who has this experience in this state, Like, what, I guess my question is, what do you think are like fair laws? What would fair laws be, or what, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's really, really hard because, like I said, with state laws, it's never going to be what do I want. It's got to be whatever the land or the law of the land is, and you have to go with it. So even when Roe was the law of the land, we would always say, if you choose abortion, that's between you and God. We're not here to tell you what you can and can't do because it's your belief. It's what you feel is right, and it's between you and God. And if you believe in a God, then you will answer to that someday. But now that it's down to the grassroots, I've always wanted, if abortion was going to be legal, to have a law in place to where if they were going to have an abortion, that I felt because supposedly abortion clinics have a counseling session before an abortion, but from hearing from clients what those counseling sessions are, they're not true counseling sessions. So I felt that for a girl that would choose abortion, I felt she needed to have a counseling session at the abortion clinic, but also at a pro-life center. So she's getting both of the information before she makes her decision. I mean, obviously, I wish abortion was not legal. I wish that every child could have the right to a birthday, but obviously, I can't make up lawmakers' minds. I've seen so much negative that comes from abortion that it hurts my heart. My one client who's tried to commit suicide multiple times because she is carrying so much guilt. She doesn't want to live with it anymore. Like these girls, and even if they make the decision when they're younger, they're going to carry it for years. And sometimes it doesn't affect them for years. It's so hard to talk about it in terms of the laws because each state's now different. Like obviously most pro-lifers were super excited to hear Roe was overturned, but now you've got states who are now taking abortion clear up to, birth, and I believe it was in Maryland. They were even trying to pass a law that up to 20 days after birth, they could leave a child out to die and nobody would be prosecuted. Like these are on the same terms of like China, and that's kind of terrifying that like Montana, they just had if an infant survives an abortion, so like a second or third trimester abortion, and the infant actually survives, that they can like basically leave it there to die and not give it any life-saving measures whatsoever. And to me as a person, like how do you just walk off and leave a baby to suffocate and to malnourish itself to death? Like, to me, that's so inhumane. Mm-hmm. So I think with the laws, there's going to come so much turmoil and problems and other things. And you are going to hear of those worst case scenarios. But I hear people who say, well, in the cases of rape or incest, but if you actually talk to a woman who's had an abortion after rape, it's so hard on them as well, because then they're still carrying the guilt that that child was still half theirs. They still, had the abortion. That child is no more. They still live with that guilt on top of, if you think of what a surgical abortion procedure is like, typically the doctor's a male. They're in the same area with the rape, and they basically are reliving the rape again, and it's like a double trauma. And then they're suffering twice as much, whereas the women who go on to have their children and either place them for adoption or raise them, there's testimonies all over the place of where they are so happy they chose life for that child, or they're so happy that they were able to place them in an adoptive family that they couldn't have children, but here they're able to raise my child even though I couldn't.
So how do you feel about, so I graduated in 2016, and when I went through sex education in school, obviously you support abstinence for sex education, which is fine. I didn't mean for it to come out that way.
Emily really supports that, apparently.
But I was also taught in sex education that abortion is a means of birth control. And now as an adult, as somebody who has lost a child and has gone through a lot of that, I personally believe that you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't, the way that I phrase it is, it's not like going to get ice cream. You shouldn't have a punch card every time you get an abortion. Yes. Because like you said, people don't understand what that does to your body and how lots of abortions in one span of time can affect you 10 years down the line when you are ready to have a child.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's really scary to think that, like I said, the women a lot of times aren't educated, and their counseling sessions are not really counseling sessions. And that's why we're going to try to start promoting like a pre-abortion appointment meeting with us. So before, like if a woman has an abortion appointment scheduled, we just ask, hey, just have one conversation with us. Like we just want to talk with you and make sure that you know everything before you go to that appointment.
I guess I just wish that, like, when I was in school, it wouldn't have been taught as a form of birth control.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
It's an uncomfortable topic generally. It doesn't matter, I feel like, which side of the line you stand on or if you stand on the line. Abortion just makes people uncomfortable. But I definitely think that if they're going to teach about it, they need to teach about it in a way not necessarily about the mother or about the baby. It's about the effects of your body and your mind instead of this is an option because why not?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And now with the abortion pill becoming so easily accessible, that's really kind of scaring me, because the more and more research I'm doing on the abortion pill, I'm finding out that even though they're marketing it as safe and more private, and you can do it in the privacy of your own home, you are 4 times more likely to visit the ER or have an adverse event or a hemorrhage or an infection than you would its surgical counterpart. And to me, that's mind-boggling that they are trying to make this such a safe and easy pill that you just take it and it's less invasive and all that. But yet, how detrimental can a pill be if its surgical counterpart is safer?
Yeah.
Like that blows my mind. And it is terrifying.
So to close up, if people want to learn more, how can they contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. You can visit our website. It's newlifesupport.org. We're also on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Oh, wow.
They have a TikTok.
Yes, we do. It's brand new. Like it's only like a week or 2 old. So, and then we also have an email, info@newlifesupport.org.
Okay. And then your building is located on South and Sugar Tree.
Yep, South and Sugar Tree.
Okay, next to the courthouse and fire station.
Yep.
You said you had some events coming up soon or this weekend?
Yeah, the Sanctity of Human Life Sunday is this coming Sunday, and we'll be kicking off our baby bottle campaign.
Okay. And then if people want to get involved to help, can they donate or volunteer?
Absolutely. You can donate online through our website. Like right from our homepage, you'll see a donate button up at the top. Feel free to mail us checks or money or just stop in. We don't mind.
You can mail Emily and I checks too if you want to. It's not a tax deduction, but we'll gladly take it.
Not a non-for-profit, but if you're looking for 2 cool people to gift money to, I mean.
All right, Courtney, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Courtney over at New Life Clinic. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to her. And anything for us, Emily, Real Change?
Just follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Real Change Wilmington, and we're on Instagram at all lowercase, one word, Real Change Wilmington. Our Facebook following has exploded in the last week and a half. We're almost at 90 followers, and that is crazy. So thank you guys so much for the support.
Yeah, more than our marketing company. So I don't know how to feel about that.
Dustin's just purely heartbroken that his philanthropic project is just crushing his financial freedom, I guess.
Yeah, people care more about the philanthropy aspect, I guess. Who would have thought? So our app may be released by the time this podcast goes live, but we got to the next stages with Apple and Google. So they're both reviewing the app right now, and it should be live soon. So stay tuned for that. With that, I'm Dustin Pierce.
And I'm Emily Spencer.
Keep it real, Wilmington.